Welcome back to Talk Solent. Joining me on the sofa today are Holly Loveland and Daz Stevens. Now, politics in our Solent region, and should councils work more closely together as one, instead of separately within a region, to achieve greater results, efficiency and, of course, save money? We've already talked on the show this year about Hampshire and the Isle of Wight merging into one council or administrative region and working closer together, but today we're talking Gosport, Fareham, Havant and Portsmouth. So would you like to see our councils in your particular area work more closely together instead of separately, or is this just yet another austerity cutback measure? Daz, I mean, this sounds like just another money-saving thing, doesn't it? Or maybe it could be more efficient as well. I mean, I don't know how you find your local council. Do you have a good impression of them, or are you disappointed by them generally?
But yeah, well, my local council is the New Forest, and in some ways, they can be very organised. But I'm not gonna say anything negative about them on here. But yeah,
you can do.
Well, thanks.
I know you're very nice. You're a really nice person, Daz. I'm sure, you know.
Well,
it'd be constructive criticism.
I don't think the show's long enough for that. But the local council should work together. That shouldn't be a cost-saving thing. That's just a no-brainer. It's just communication, you know, particularly between councils that are in the same county. You know, I would presume that's quite normal.
Mm. And hopefully maybe reduce the amount of paperwork. I mean, if they're talking to each other more, instead of this does sound good. I mean, some people, obviously, you know, there'll be people for and against. It's actually Councillor Mark Hook, who's the leader of Gosport Borough Council, who's urging the Solent councils, Fareham, Portsmouth and Havant, to work more closely together to improve services and drive down costs. And he says, Solent councils have a lot in common and share an ambition to see our area grow and be prosperous. And he said the proposed combined authority for the Solent area will bring £30 million of investment a year for the next 30 years into the area from central government, and this could be just the start. Together we can reap enormous benefits for residents and businesses in the Solent region. I mean, I'm no expert. I'm not sure how that figure has come about. It sounds optimistic, but I'm sure there'll be people that are less optimistic. What about you're in Poole, aren't you? In Poole, Dorset, Holly?
Yes.
Maybe you haven't had any dealings with them, but maybe, I mean, do you and your family think that Poole Council's a good council, or I mean, what's been your impression? Do you feel they could get their act together more, or do you feel they're doing the best they can within all the cutbacks that we've had?
The biggest concern, although they have kind of sorted it out, is the emptying of the bins, of the recycle bins.
Right.
That's probably the only biggest problem we have. We kind of stay out of we don't get in the council's way or anything. But I think they do the best they can, really. Obviously, because we've got the recycle bins are every 2 weeks, and then normal black bins are emptied every.
The bins have got really
week.
Complex now, haven't they, Daz?
What's that, sorry?
The bins.
Yeah.
I mean, years ago it was just your one, you know, the metal can thing, wasn't it? You know, You don't see any of those anymore.
In the Netherlands, we used to have 6 or 7 different types of bin, depending on what the product that you had to put in there. You know, it was all
really
all recycling stuff. Card would have to go in a different bin than, say, old batteries or or glass. So it was you had to keep on the ball with that.
When were you living in the Netherlands, Daz?
Oh, in the late 80s till mid 90s. Yeah,
you were living there, yeah. And you're fluent in Dutch.
So,
You're
I'm
in Dutch as well.
A fluent Dutch and Frisian speaker. There's not much calls for that around here. In fact, I think I'm the only Frisian speaker that I know, apart from back in the Netherlands.
So Frisian is a dialect of Dutch.
Well, officially it is a different language, but a lot of other Netherlanders would just dismiss it as a dialect.
Yeah. Well, getting back to the region, you know, Hampshire here, and they were talking about getting the Isle of Wight and Hampshire to be one authority. And they were talking about this thing. We were laughing at it on the show a few months ago. A metro mayor, And someone said, what's that when it's at home, a Metro Mayor? Well, it's a mayor that would oversee Hampshire and the Isle of Wight, but then opponents were saying, but it's such a big area, how can you have one mayor for all that area?
It's just another body they're trying to, I suppose, kind of like organise.
I mean, I suppose cutbacks can be justified if it makes things more efficient, but you know, where's it going to end? I mean, it's just been cut back everywhere, hasn't it? I mean, money saving can be a good thing, but not always. So, as they say, the jury's out on this one. We'll cover it again, I'm sure, in shows to come. Now, love it or hate it, most of you will have used the London Underground at some point. Daz Stevens on the sofa with us again today knows a bit about the Underground. A little bit more about that in a moment. But we know how difficult it often is to find a seat. Well, a gentleman in London, fed up with not being able to sit down, came up with his own solution and was photographed by very amused fellow passengers sitting on his own comfortable armchair that he'd brought with him. I'm not sure what it must be like trying to move the thing around in the tube, but that's another matter. We've got a photo here which we'll show you in a moment. Daz, you spent a lot of time on the Underground. Have you ever seen anybody that's brought their own chair onto the tube?
I've seen a lot of unusual things, but I've not seen that.
I was going to ask you about those.
Then presumably it wasn't at 6 o'clock in the evening.
Right.
No, I've not seen that, Jonathan.
No. Well, this wasn't just like a fold-up chair. It was actually a comfortable chair, and it's just. It's been photographed by several people. I don't know if we can see. I mean, his face has been blurred out, but we can see a gentleman there sat reading a magazine or newspaper on the Underground in his chair that he's brought in. But I mean, surely there's a law against just carrying that down an escalator, isn't there, or up an escalator?
I'm sure the cameras would have picked him up.
I mean, you can see literally anything in the Underground, can't you? I mean, you said you've seen some things. I don't want to put you on the spot, but what other memorable experiences have you had on the Underground, apart from doing the tube challenge, which is very memorable?
Put me on the spot. I can remember at a very, very young age, around about Easter time, when I'd eaten too much chocolate.
Right.
And being sick on the Underground, and for my mother, because we couldn't get a seat. My mother, she thought it was a plan to get a seat, because as soon as I was sick, all the passengers moved to the other side, and we had 3 seats for ourselves. But yeah, they're just you could write a book on it. But
well, you've got a film. There might be a film called The Tube Challenge, mightn't there?
Yeah, I hope so. It's there's a lot of work still to be done. We're going up on the 13th of July to do a few interviews with some of the characters involved, and at a pub in Camden. So that on the Camden Lock with that should be quite good.
Yeah. Holly, do you like London? Do you like travelling on the Underground?
London's okay. The Underground, I've actually gotten lost on the Underground a couple of times by myself. Sometimes I go up there, because obviously I go to a lot of gigs, so sometimes I have to, maybe I'm passing through London, or I'm going to a gig in London, and I've got to take the Underground, and being by myself, it's okay if you know where you're going. Someone who's going to a new place every time, no. I've gotten lost a few times. I've got on the wrong train a few times. I've gone back and fixed it and gone the right way again, but it's quite frustrating when you don't know where you're going. You've got to ask someone, and then you're more confused because they've just given you directions, and it's because you don't understand it. You just
and it could actually be getting even more frustrating, because I think this may start off a trend, and people will be bringing their own chairs with them.
I think I might start that actually. I'm thinking about it now.
And so you go up. You're in London often. I mean, do you actually enjoy the Underground, or do you try and avoid it? I love the buzz of it.
Because I have an Oyster card, so it's easier to just scan it and go straight through. And the Underground's quicker, but if I can avoid it, I try to. But it's the quickest form of transport, I think, in my opinion, in London. So obviously, if you got to wait for a bus, then you got to get on like 2 buses to get to King's Cross or whatever you want to go. I don't understand
the buses in London. I avoid them. I just don't understand them.
I'd rather take the Underground for longer routes.
Yeah.
And Daz, it's 270 stations on the whole underground, and
Yeah.
that's obviously increased now, hasn't it, recently?
It hasn't increased for a couple of years, but it is about to, and it's there's an extension in the next 4 years that will terminate at the Battersea Power Station, where that's all been renovated. Plus, there's up by Watford. They're adding little bits to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then of course you've got Crossrail. I'm not actually sure if Crossrail is part of the London Underground, but that's just another addition.
Yeah. Coming up, we'll be sharing some national and international press articles catching our eye. And if you've got news that we should be talking about, then do contact us on our email talk@thatsolent.com or send us a tweet on Twitter #TalkSolent.